Good morning. Welcome to Talkline on the Metronews Radio Network.
Do not attempt to change the station. You are surrounded.
We interrupt this program to bring you an emergency news bulletin. Repeat, this is an emergency bulletin. Keep your radio turned on.
Holy smoke.
From the studios of the West Virginia Radio Corporation and the Metronews Radio Network, the voice of West Virginia, comes the most powerful radio show in West Virginia. This is Metronews Talkline with Hoppy Kercheval.
Check set line up link. Activated Telos telephone. Switch network control from Charleston to Morgantown.
Stand by. Cue Hoppy. You're on.
Good morning. Welcome to Talkline on Metronews in and around the great state. Hoppy Kercheval with you. Joe Nelson, our producer, Matt Sunday. With the video stream, you can watch us at wvmetronews.com. Coming up this morning, first of all, in the next hour, we're going to talk about West Virginia's stagnant population and the impact of that. And it's going to impact very soon our representation in Washington. We're going to talk about that in the next hour. Also coming up, okay, we'll do the obligatory, what kind of white Christmas is it going to be? Well, it's not going to be white at all. So we'll get the lowdown on that. And also, at the very end of the show, Chris Horner. Chris Horner is attorney for the Energy and Environment Legal Institute. He's done a ton of legwork exposing, which other media have now picked up, including the New York Times, showing how people at the EPA actually worked with, behind the scenes, environmental groups like the Sierra Club to craft the environmental rules for carbon emissions, which are contributing to the destruction of the coal industry. So that all coming up today. But first up this morning, reporting in a commentary today that I think it's likely, and I want to be careful about this, but I'm going to use the word likely, that U.S. Attorney Booth Goodwin will enter soon enter, and he would have to because the registration period starts in January, only lasts for a couple of weeks, that Booth Goodwin will soon enter the race for the Democratic nomination for governor in the coming weeks. I talked to Chuck Smith, and he's going to be with me tomorrow. Chuck Smith is a Charleston CPA, former chairman of the Democratic Party in West Virginia, and he's among those that is pushing Goodwin to get in the race. When I talked with Smith this week, he said, quote, I, along with a number of other people, am encouraging him. And Smith said, quote, I feel very confident he is going to run. That's what Chuck Smith told me this week, reported as such in the commentary today. Let's get some reactions. Now, he hasn't said yet, and it's not a slam dunk, but as we watch the political tides go in and out here in West Virginia, it is increasingly likely that Goodwin will enter the race. Already, of course, two people in there, Jim Justice, and also in the race is Jeff Kessler. Now, let's get some reaction to this. George Karrenbauer is the former State Democratic Party chairman, joins us on Talkline. Mike Stewart, former Republican Party chairman. Good morning to you both, Mike and George. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Merry Christmas to all your listeners.
Merry Christmas. George,
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. How does, if in fact Goodwin enters the race, how does this change the dynamic of the West Virginia Democratic primary, in your opinion?
Well, I actually don't have an answer to that because I've thought about the different ways in which it could affect it. But I think it does show is that the Democratic Party certainly is alive and well when you have in the race, probably the state's most successful business person, a very energetic and successful U.S. attorney, and a visionary former Senate president. So, it shows the party's in good shape.
Do you think that Goodwin will, I'm saying likely, are you surprised by that, and what kind of candidate do you think he would be?
Well, I think he'd be a very good candidate, and I'm not totally surprised, except that the timing is difficult, I think. It's only 5 months or so until the primary election. So I think that would be his biggest challenge, is probably just the timing. But in terms of his qualification to be governor, I think there's no doubt that he's well qualified to be governor, as are the others. So I think the Democratic Party is well served by the candidates that it's likely to offer for governor.
Mike Stewart, former Republican Party chairman, what's your reaction to, or what will be the impact on this election if, in fact, Goodwin gets in?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to say the position of U.S. Attorney is very important for West Virginia and for the enforcement of justice across the state. So if he's actively posturing to run for governor and he's actively having these discussions, there needs to be a quick resignation from that position. And that's real important because justice cannot be driven by politics, and you can't divorce those two issues entirely. And so what I'll say about Booth is I think, he's a smart, good family guy, good father, appears to be. His wife's a tremendous asset.
His wife, Amy Schuler, Goodwin, who was press secretary to Wise and also to Tomlin, and also is now the current secretary of tourism, travel and tourism in West Virginia. FYI.
Yeah, so he's very capable. He's got a whole stable of Goodwins there. In fact, let's just be honest about this: that no single family is probably more entrenched in the Democrat machinery in West Virginia than the Goodwins, and no single family, arguably, in the history of West Virginia, has played a more significant role in where we are as a state today. And when I say that, you can look back at a Pittsburgh Post-Gazette article from several years back that referred to West Virginia as the state of Goodwin. And so this is, I think it's fascinating. It's going to be interesting to watch. I thought the senior senator had somewhat appointed or anointed.
You're talking about Manchin?
Yeah, Manchin had sort of nominated Jim Justice as the nominee. So it begs a whole bunch of questions, like who's running the Democrat Party? Is there an internal struggle?
Well, Karen Bauer says it's just a healthy Democratic Party and it's not monolithic. And if qualified people want to get in, they get in. That's what Karen Bauer just said. As I speak for him.
Well, I mean, I think the whole thing is going to be intriguing. And the other thing is, let's face it, he was appointed by President Obama. And I think the last thing we need in West Virginia, one thing you're going to talk about at the top of the hour to plug your next hour, is we're losing more people every day in West Virginia than any other state in the country. Not per capita, but by real numbers. We're losing more people than California, than New York, than Florida, than Texas. So where we are as a state, this was built over decades of Democrat control, liberal Democrat control.
So, George Karrenbauer, is that Obama yoke still there because Goodwin served as assistant U.S. attorney for something like 9 years, then was appointed to the U.S. attorney's position by the Obama administration. So is that still a yoke there he would have to deal with?
Well, they pull it out for a dog catcher. And at some point, this has to just wear a little bit thin. The question is not who appointed him; it's what kind of job he did, and he's done a splendid job. So, I think this is, the same old song here that we've heard over and over and over again. But the fact is that Booth has done a great job, and he has not shied away from prosecuting people in his own party as well as in the other party. So he has done a job that I think is above politics. And I look at the other candidates, those who've already filed for governor, and particularly Senator Kessler, whom I know very well and for whom I have a great deal of respect. And I think he is a visionary and a very courageous person. So I think we've got in our party a look to the future, a rather fearless, non-political approach to everything.
No,
so
wait, George, come on, non-political. Wait, George, hang on. Let me call you there. You were on a roll. I was tuned in there. When you say come on, you're running for governor. Of course it's politics. I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, but of course it's politics. Come on now, stop right there. Tell me this, George. Tell me this: is that where is the if in fact Goodwin gets in, and according to the latest Metronews poll in September, we had Justice at 40%, Kessler 34%, 26% not sure. Obviously, very very early. That was before that Justice run those what I thought was pretty effective TV ads. Where is the avenue for Goodwin if he gets in? Where does he? I mean, how does he do it in 4.5 months?
Well, he's got to make his case for himself, which is, and I think probably his biggest challenge is probably raising money because it's fairly late in the game to be doing that. And there's only 5 months. It's not, and to establish, he's had some publicity in his capacity as U.S. attorney. So he's not starting from zero, but he has to move forward and make a case for himself.
Did Mike Stewart, did the Blankenship trial, probably the biggest, if not one of the biggest stories of the year, which just recently wrapped up, got one conviction on a misdemeanor, there were 2 acquittals. Does that help him politically, or are there going to be people such as yourself who think it could be used against him?
Well, let me say this. I mean, let's just be honest about it. We spent millions, and if we're talking, and I like efficient government. Let's just say that, efficient government. And what we did there was we spent millions and millions and millions, and I can keep saying the word millions, of dollars to convict a business executive for a misdemeanor. A misdemeanor. And I got to be honest, I was upset. In fact, I was concerned about all those families that had to relive that horror. that terrible tragedy so that we could convict a guy of a misdemeanor and spend millions of dollars in the process. So I think he's done. I'm glad with his efforts at dealing with drugs, because I think drugs are.
So would you use that against him? So would you use that against him?
I'm not going to use it against him. I think the people of West Virginia have to judge whether that was an efficient use of their tax dollars. But I think he's done some good things in terms of prosecution of folks in southern West Virginia for corruption. Political corruption, we're against it in our party. I'm sure he's against it. Everybody's against it, and he's taken some action there. And he's also been active in the fight against drugs.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about that. George, which way does the Blankenship verdicts and trial cut for him?
Well, I think if you ask the people who were the victims, if you ask the victims' families, I think they certainly come down on the side of a successful outcome. And I think that's what people will do, really, when push comes to shove. I think that's the bottom line is going to be there was a conviction, and so I think that's likely to be how people ultimately feel about it. And we've got a campaign ahead. First of all, we're still speaking in, I think, something of a speculative mode here.
Yes.
There's been no announcement.
No.
And the other thing I'll throw out where's he stand on taxes, on gun rights, on social issues? Does he support President Obama? Does he support Hillary Clinton? And so I think, so my point is, I think he has the capability of becoming a really good candidate, but we're so late in the process that he's going to have to educate West Virginians as to where he stands on these very important issues that a governor, perhaps not a U.S. attorney, but a governor has to lead the charge on.
And I don't think that where you stand on Obama has anything to do at all with somebody who's going to be serving as governor in the future.
George, we have folks leaving the state. We have folks losing their jobs every day as a result of this president.
The question is what policies you're going to pursue down the road. Obama will not be the president. So to just keep pulling Obama out of he's not going to be the president when our next governor takes office.
We're going to feel the effects of Obama for the next few decades.
Yeah. That's fine, but it has nothing to do with the serving. And I would look at it and say, what is going to happen in the policies that the two parties are going to offer in the way of governor? Are they going to continue, for example? To me, this is the biggest thing of all. Are they going to continue to have Medicaid cover 150,000 people that are now covered under the Affordable Care Act in West Virginia? Are they going to terminate those people from their health care insurance?
Well, they're not going to terminate them.
Tell you that.
I mean, I just don't. I mean, that would be. I don't think anybody politically would do that. I think that bell's been rung. But
well, if you repeal Obamacare, you terminate it.
George Karenbauer's with us, former Democratic Party Chairman Mike Stewart, former Republican Party Chairman, and we're talking about the likelihood. Check this out. I'm not. This may come back to bite me, but I'm using the word that it is likely that Booth Goodwin will enter the governor's race in West Virginia, running for the Democratic nomination for governor. Let me go back to the kind of the original point on this. George, are you a little surprised if he does get in? Does that surprise you?
I'm not totally surprised because there's still time. I do think it's you could cut it both ways. Waiting until fairly late in the game may be an advantage or could be a disadvantage. I think it cuts both ways because, fortunately, we don't have a super expensive race in the Democratic primary for governor. It's not something that's typically overwhelmingly expensive.
Yeah, but Jim Justice has already run. I don't know how much he spent. Already run really high quality ads for 4 or 5 weeks or something, whatever it was, and moved the needle some.
I agree.
So,
I agree. He has done that. I agree. But
the question is, does Justice continue to run?
What do you mean?
Well, I'm just saying that I think there could be some inside baseball. I have no knowledge of any of this. I'm just saying that you're going to have Jim Justice here, and I think from what you hear, Senator Manchin supports Justice. Maybe not. Who knows? You've got Booth Goodwin. You've got Kessler, another really capable candidate. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun to sit on the sidelines and watch. We'll find out because, let's face it, the Democrat base in West Virginia, there are a lot of great Democrats, but it's still controlled by that far left-wing liberal bias. What we're going to end up with is a really liberal candidate.
You know what I wonder, though? Everybody keeps throwing at me. Everybody keeps suggesting. I say everybody. People I talk to say, well, now I guess Justice will be getting out. And I think, well, why? I've never, ever since he got in, it seems like people have been questioning whether he's really in, whether he's going to get out. I have no insight into that, except I don't talk to him very much, but would be A, why would you get in if you're going to get out? B, why would you spend a bunch of money if you're going to get out? And C, if you move the needle after you run ads, why would you get out? I don't see that. George, do you? Maybe you do.
No,
Maybe you do.
No, I don't actually. And, of the three candidates, he's the one I don't know personally. So I don't have any particular insight into this at all, other than it would seem pretty bizarre to have gone this far and to run ads and then to pull back. So it just strikes me as odd, that theory.
All right. Listen, thanks, guys. We appreciate it. Thanks for your insights. George Karenbauer, former Democratic Party chairman, Mike Stewart, former Republican Party chairman. It's always a good discussion. We have you guys on. Appreciate it and hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, George. Thank you, Mike. So there it is. We'll talk more about this when we come back. Stay with us.
To start saving. At MVB Bank, it's easy with our new 12-month CD. Start earning 1.15% annual percentage yield with a minimum deposit of just $1,000. To start your CD savings today, visit our jolly team at any MVB location or call us at 844-MVB-BANK. It's sure to keep you off the naughty list next year. MVB Bank. Your financial life made easy. Member FDIC. Changing lives by preventing harm and providing hope and healing to hurting children and families. Burlington United Methodist Family Services has led the way in West Virginia for over 100 years, preventing harm by helping place endangered children in safe, caring foster homes, providing hope by counseling birth parents in their choice to parent or make an adoption plan, and helping adoptive parents in their quest for a child. Go to bumfs.org to see how Burlington United Methodist Family Services is truly changing lives.
You're listening to Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Gosh, cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline on Metro News. Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. I want to be very clear about this because I chose the wording carefully that I used in the commentary and what we just talked about this morning. That as of today, I believe it is very likely that Goodwin will enter the governor's race. I'm not saying he's in as of today or that he's definitely in. I'm saying as of today, it is very likely he will enter the race. I think that is a safe and credible piece of information. Now, I just want to be, I'm not walking this back at all. We talk about politics. We talk about what is happening. We talk about what may happen. I know he's been thinking about this for a long time. He will not comment publicly because he's still the Attorney General for the Southern District of West Virginia. And I think that, as the guys pointed out last half hour, I think there's some challenges there because you already have two established candidates in the race. You know, the primary is in less than 5 months. It's May 10th. Now, that's not a long time in politics. It's a long time if you're sitting through the winter. It's not a long time in politics, especially when you start out. And I don't know what his name recognition is. It has to be a little bit higher after Blankenship, but I'm not sure how much higher, but probably a little bit higher. And again, Justice's numbers, we had him at 40%, Kessler 34%, 26%, not sure, back in September. Now, that was before Justice ran all those ads. And those ads do work. He put out a poll, or somebody put out a poll, might have been Justice's own poll, or somebody, that showed his lead being extended over Kessler. So when you have the kind of money that you can go out very early and define who you are before others define you, then you have a particular advantage. Because then, as other candidates come on, they got to spend a lot of money, not only introducing themselves, but bringing down the other guy. So we'll see how this all sorts out. Now, if I were Goodwin and I was getting in the race, I think you can run an interesting, short, intense race here by not being the political guy. By being the guy, you can run on this thing for the last 14 years. I've served as the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of West Virginia. We've put away drug offenders. We've, thrown political scofflaws in jail. We brought Blankenship to court for UBB. I mean, and you can use those kinds of things to pretty quickly build some credibility in the state that is not based as much. But it's not based as much on political happenings. Okay, I mean that's heavyweight stuff. The kind of work you do as a U.S. prosecutor. So, and you're not in that position for life. It was pointed by Obama, but Obama's going to be out in 2016, and usually the new guy comes in, whoever it is, and they appoint their own person. Okay. Also on the political front today, the Beckley Register Herald reporting that Wyoming County Democratic delegate Linda Good Phillips is not going to run for another term in the House of Delegates, and in fact, Phillips says that she's going to resign her seat. That's in District 25 that she's held for the last 7 years. She's going to resign that seat at the end of December. So she's already stepping aside, not even finishing out the rest of her term. Okay, we're going to take a break and come back. When we come back, Fox News legal analyst Lise Wheel, also Jolette Nauchin, President, CEO of the West Virginia Hospital Association. A lot to do today, so don't go away. This is Talkline on Metronews. Metronews is the voice of West Virginia. 10:30, let's get a news update. Check in with the Metro News Radio Network. Find out what's happening statewide this hour, all across the great state of West Virginia.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Shauna Johnson. West Virginia's population is falling faster than populations in any other state. New numbers from the U.S. Census Bureau show the decline was about 0.25% between July of last year and July of this year. The Mountain State was one of 7 to record population loss. In Raleigh County, a woman is said to be in stable condition today after being shot at a Beckley apartment complex late Tuesday. Beckley police say the woman was an innocent bystander wounded when shots rang out there. The state's chief health officer says he's hoping for quick action from the legislature on recommendations from the Public Health Task Force. Recommendations for standardized public health practices statewide.
Obviously, not only the burden of disease that we suffer in West Virginia, but also we're looking at the funding challenges and budgetary challenges. So it's very important that In addition to those challenges, we also have a plan to utilize in the most effective and efficient manner the public resources we do have available.
Dr. Raul Gupta on the recommendations that were finalized Tuesday. Tomorrow's Christmas Eve could be a record setter for highs in West Virginia, with temperatures in some areas forecasted to climb into the 70s. National Weather Service meteorologist Jonathan Wolf on why it's so warm.
This is being caused by the big dip in the jet stream in the western part of the U.S., where it's bringing a lot of cold air over there, and we're stuck in the warm sector over here.
You're listening to Metro News for 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
A study from England shows that men spend more time each day looking at themselves than women. Well, believe that study or not, the point is we all want to look our best all the time. Well, the same holds true for businesses. We judge businesses, in fact, by their look. At Pikewood Creative, we produce videos and commercials that make businesses look their very best. And you know what? It improves their business. They get more customers and clients. If you'd like your business to look better, then check us out at pikewoodcreative.com.
Keep up with what's happening in our state at WVMetronews.com. Whether it's breaking news or the latest political development, high school sports coverage, insights on the Mountaineers or the Thundering Herd, hunting and fishing news, or just the latest weather conditions, your source is WVMetronews.com. Listen to podcasts of Talkline and Sportsline, or watch video streams of your favorite Metro News programs. You'll find all that and more with one free click at WVMetronews.com. Metro News is the voice of West Virginia.
The Bishop of the Diocese of Wheeling-Charleston says he likes the design of the new Catholic church set to be built in Marshall County. It's a replacement for St. John Catholic Church in Benwood, which was destroyed in a March fire.
It's really going to be beautiful. It's a blend of the old and the new, but it has a new look to it. It will be very good looking.
Bishop Michael Bransfield says the Benwood community depends on the church. The new one could be finished by the spring of 2017. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Shauna Johnson.
Talkline on Metro News. Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. I teased this segment with Lisa Wheel, Fox News legal analyst, by saying, can you sue Santa? It's a little bit misleading, but it is a way to draw into this question of whether or not can you sue someone for breaking a contract. Is breaking a promise like breaking a contract? Like you don't get what you want for Christmas, or you don't get what you think you were promised. In general, we're just using Santa to work our way into this. Is breaking a promise actionable like breaking a contract? Lisa Wheel, Fox News legal analyst. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Everything to you. Merry everything.
Thank you. Is it?
Well, no. You can. Well, this is the great state of the United States of America. That means you can sue anybody for anything. But will you win? No. A promise. Okay. I go out on a fabulous first date with a guy, right? Mm-hmm. He says, I'm going to call you tomorrow. I'll make a next date. And he doesn't. I'm bummed. But that was a promise, not a contract. For a contract, you've got to have an offer. This is what I want, an acceptance back from Santa, a written letter, and some consideration. And no, being a nice guy or gal for the year is not consideration, because you're supposed to be nice. You're supposed to be nice.
But let me take that to the real world, because so let's say though that you have a project at your house.
Yes.
And I show up and you're talking to me about it, and I say, well, I can take care of that. And you say, okay, come back tomorrow and take care of it. And that's it. And I don't come back. Now, that to me is a problem. That's different than I can do this. It'll cost you this. And you say, okay, I agree to that price.
Yeah.
Right?
And then, well, the other thing is, okay, let's go back to your, so what happens is you say, okay, you can do this, great. And the guy says to you, or gal says to you, go out and buy these supplies, because I need this to get it done.
Okay.
And you go out and you buy the supplies. And then the person doesn't show up. That's wrong, because then you went out and did what you were told to honor that promise / contract. That, to me, is a contract.
If you could sue
versus, I can take care of it tomorrow, and doesn't show up. I mean, come on. How many times does that happen to us all?
All the time. Lisa Will, Fox News legal analyst. Okay, I saw this story. I thought you might pick up on this. A lawsuit filed claims a New Jersey man suffered emotional distress when his ex-wife wrote notations such as bum and loser on the memo line of her alimony checks, and cashed them, so when they came back to him, they had bum and loser written on there. So he's claiming this has caused him distress. It's damaged his health. Does he have a claim?
He does not have a claim. I think this is silly, but it is a real. He did make the claim. He said that caused me emotional distress. But to get that claim answered, you have to say that it was outrageous and reckless conduct that caused us emotional distress. Okay, was it a little bit naughty? Yeah, probably not the nicest thing to do in the world, but is it really nasty? Nah, it's just an ex-wife being mad at her ex-husband and the ex-husband being mad at her. It's not really emotional distress.
Well, differences between couples keep lawyers really, really busy.
I know, but the thing that's crazy is Mrs. Claus has her speed dial in a big law firm in New York, and the guy here has a speed dial in a big law firm in New York. I mean, lawyers take this stuff, which, as we go into the new year, I would say, come on, people, don't take this stuff. You out there, my brethren lawyers, don't do it.
Yeah.
You're just
I think a lot, in
yourself
fairness to
all a bad
lawyers,
name.
I think in fairness to lawyers, a lot will turn it down, but some are going to take it.
Some are going to take it. And, the legal market's tough right now. It's really tough.
There's a lot of lawyers. Okay.
Exactly. Tough on lawyers. They're going to take... You can bring pretty much anything, and some lawyer will take it.
Lisa, I knew this one would
right?
come up
No.
too. I knew this would come up too. The city of Plantation, Florida, claims in a lawsuit that a couple's extreme Christmas light display is a public nuisance. The couple, Kathy and Mark Hyatt, are fighting the lawsuit. So they got this big light display, and the city says you're a nuisance. Who's right here?
Oh, I think the couple is absolutely right. Look, is it a little bit of a nuisance? Maybe, because the traffic slows down. But come on, think about the kids who are going through that. And like I remember in my town, we had this one little lane that they did the exact same thing. It was great. My mom and dad would take me every year, and it was just amazing.
But what about, but you share that street, you share that neighborhood, and I'm living across the street, and I say there's cars all day and night. I can't park here.
I guess I'm a wimp on this one. I guess, but I'm just... Is it a lawsuit? Really? I don't think so. So neighbor talk to neighbor and say, maybe you could just tune it down just a little bit.
Yeah, wouldn't it be pretty to think so that would happen?
But the other thing, I hadn't thought about this until I started really talking about it today, but think about that family that does that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They must be sitting around. It doesn't happen overnight. They must be sitting around for months around their kitchen table at dinner time talking about it, what they're going to do, how they're going to do it. Don't we want to foster that? That's great.
You're such an optimist. It's good to have that. I did hear about a neighborhood somewhere where there was a home that did that, went way, way, way over the top with their Christmas decorations. And at first, other people in the neighborhood were honked off by it, but then they'd start doing the same thing. If you can't, why not join in and just make it a thing?
You can't beat them, join them.
Yeah, Lisa Wheel, Fox's legal analyst. Great having you on. Merry Christmas. Hope you have a wonderful holiday. Yeah, exactly. Good to speak with you.
Merry Christmas.
Take good care. All right. There we have it. And you can't sue for a broken promise. A contract and a promise are different things under the law. Okay. Important notation. When Christmas morning, you don't get what you ask for. We'll be back.
Hello?
Susan, I need your help.
Sure, what's up?
I need a contractor, and I don't know how to find a good one.
Oh, that's easy. Go to the Home Builders Association of West Virginia. They have a list of all kinds of contractors.
How do I know if they're good? I don't want just anybody.
Well, do your homework. Are they licensed and insured? Check their references and look at what they've done. Do people like them? And most of all, be sure to get a clear written contract.
Okay, where do I find this association?
Go to hbawv.org.
hbawv.org.
That's it.
Your dreams built by the best. Contact the Home Builders Association of West Virginia for a list of professionals in your area. Go to hbawv.org today. This message brought to you by our marketing partners, Lowe's of North Central West Virginia, Brick Street, 84 Lumber, Federal Home Loan Bank of Pittsburgh, ProBuild, SJ Needhawk, Valcon, Wincor, and West Virginia Housing Development Fund. The Home Builders Association of West Virginia. Go to hbawv.org today.
True to its motto, wild and wonderful, West Virginia is the third most forested state in the country for landmass and has 7 million more forested acres now than 100 years ago. The mountain state is abundantly blessed with valuable renewable forest resources, which naturally regenerate for future generations. Forestry is the basis for over 5,000 separate wood and paper products, creating millions of dollars in state revenue from business income and property taxes. A message from the West Virginia Forestry Association, WVFA.org.
Is your business or organization struggling when it comes time to tell your story? After all, your story is what makes you unique. Your story is what makes potential clients and customers draw themselves to you. Unfortunately, oftentimes, those stories aren't told and businesses and organizations remain mired in mediocrity. At Pikewood Creative, we produce videos and commercials in a way that make people take notice. If you need some visual help, then visit us at pikewoodcreative.com.
This is Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline on Metro News. The Lodge at North Bend State Park is hosting a Christmas Day buffet this year. Christmas Day. Enjoy traditional entrees like turkey and stuffing, as well as new favorites like pecan-crusted fish and a prime rib carving station. After your meal, explore the 72-mile North Bend Rail Trail by bike or by foot. For Christmas Day adventures, call 800-225-5982 to speak to an adventure advisor. That's 800-225-5982. If you just don't want to have all the mess to clean up on Christmas Day, all the cooking, might have other circumstances, just do the North Bend State Park Lodge Christmas Buffet this year. Now, when the Affordable Care Act passed, one of the myriad provisions was that people who didn't have insurance or couldn't afford insurance would get supplements, and they could get insurance through the exchanges. And that's a whole nother story, but the fact is there are a number of people in West Virginia and across the country who've gotten insurance through the exchanges. I think in West Virginia, maybe it's 30,000, something like that. But also, remember, it changed the standard for Medicaid. So there were many more people in West Virginia who qualified for Medicaid. And I think through Medicaid, we've added about another 170, 180,000 people. So you got more than 200,000 people who a couple years ago did not have insurance who now have insurance. The thought being that if they had insurance, that they would utilize the healthcare system when necessary, maybe be healthier, and also that when they were sick, they wouldn't just go to the ER, which is the most expensive kind of healthcare. That they would get care from their primary doctor, or they could be admitted to the hospital. And then if they were in the hospital, they would be reimbursed through Medicaid. They'd be reimbursed for the care. It wouldn't be an uncompensated expense through going to the ER. So has there been a windfall to the hospitals in West Virginia from the ACA? Jolette Notchin is president and CEO of the West Virginia Hospital Association. He joins us on Metro News Talkline. Joe, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Good to speak with you. How are you, sir?
Good, Hoppy. Good morning.
Thank you for coming on. Your organization represents 66 member hospitals and healthcare systems. As I just explained, I think I was accurate there about how this works. So have hospitals gotten this financial windfall from this?
Not exactly, Hoppy. There's a couple pieces to this pie. You have Medicaid expansion, which, as you said, covers about 180,000 people, 170 depending on when you count it. And so those people are covered under Medicaid. Medicaid is a government program along with Medicare, along with PEIA, where those rates are set by the payers. They make up over 70% of our patients that come into our hospitals. They all pay below cost. Secondly,
they're not paying the full freight.
They're not paying the full freight.
Okay.
Medicare pays about 88 cents on a dollar. Medicaid pays in the 70s. And then you have PEIA that pays less than that.
Okay.
So we can't negotiate those rates. They're all paid below cost. The sticky thing in all this, which people say Medicaid expansion helped hospitals and maybe we have, quote, windfall profits, which is wrong. The reductions that we felt in the Medicare program to pay for Medicaid expansion and to pay for the exchanges has totally wiped out any increased revenue. In fact, it's put us into a negative. What
Really?
we've gained in Medicaid, we've lost more in Medicare.
Well, this is like it's like it comes out of one pocket and goes into another. So you are getting compensated, although not the full reimbursement for the more Medicaid patients, but you're getting less money for the Medicare patients.
That's exactly right. Medicaid makes up, with the expansion, could be close to 25% of our utilization. Medicare is close to 50% of our utilization.
But what about Joe? What about the fact that all these theoretically, and tell me if I'm wrong, theoretically, all these people were not should not be showing up at the ER for expensive and uncompensated care. What about that factor?
Some still are showing up in the emergency departments. We're treating them and we're referring them back to some place for primary care. But people still show up, especially late at night, in the middle of the night, early in the morning, when primary care is not open. They're still coming to us for that. But the key issue is the benefits of Medicaid have to be paid for somewhere, and they're being paid for by payment cuts in Medicare. When the ACA was first passed, we estimated that over the first 10-year period, we would take cuts of over $1.3 billion. Those estimates have grown significantly. We're going to be over $2 billion in payment reductions for Medicare over that 10-year period. Secondly, for the first 4 years of ACA, before we saw any patient coverage expansion, we had payment cuts over $300 million just in West Virginia. So the numbers just don't add up. You can't make it up in volume. You're getting paid for these patients, yes, but everything we get in one pocket is being emptied out in the other pocket out of Medicare.
So are you saying that generally speaking, or maybe specifically speaking, that hospitals in West Virginia are in, and I know it's always a close nut anyway, are in worse financial shape now after ACA than before?
Well, you break the hospitals into a couple buckets. The critical access hospitals that are paid, by cost based on Medicare's definition of cost. There's 20 of them. They're cost reimbursed. However, there was a 2% sequestration cut that hit all Medicare payments several years ago, so they're getting cuts. The general acute care hospitals that are paid under a different payment methodology, they're getting paid less, and some of them are in hurting shape.
Well,
and financially, they're hurting.
Well, a couple of things then. Either hospitals then have less money for capital improvements or necessary upgrades for the care they need to provide, or I'm paying for it.
All the above. We are still providing. Uncompensated care has dropped 46, 47%. That's a factual number from 2014.
That's significant.
That's significant. The problem is we're still providing about $490 million in uncompensated care, and that's at cost. That's not an inflated charges. That's a cost number for the uncompensated care that we're still providing. And so, the numbers just don't add up when you have close to 50% in Medicare with heavy payment reductions, and then you have 25% in Medicaid where we're getting paid for those services. both programs below cost, there's still a squeeze play in the middle. The
Joe,
bubble keeps growing.
Yeah, Joe Nauchin's with us, President and CEO of the West Virginia Hospital Association. I would suspect that the financial pinch is even greater in a state like West Virginia, where you have a poorer population, an older population, and a population that has more serious health problems. I mean, you're getting the triple whammy, aren't you?
The triple whammy. We have the chronic conditions with cancer, smoking, obesity, diabetes. And then we have all the services and the programs that the hospitals provide for the community, which are part of our mission of trying to get folks into the wellness mode to improve their health status. It's a tough balancing act because you can't account for personal responsibility. You can't force people to do things.
Can you do more? Can and should hospitals do more than they're doing now in preventive care to try to bend that curve a little bit?
We're doing over $1 billion a year in what we call community benefits, which are things that are not paid for. Free and low-cost immunizations, health education programs. We do a lot of community building programs. We do family support services. We do a lot of that now. You can continue to do more, but you have cost of running these programs, which are our costs that we absorb because that's our commitment to our local communities. But let me just throw two numbers at you. Uncompensated care is still a big number. We pay over $125 million a year to the state in what's called a provider tax, which goes to the state, and they use that to fund portions of the Medicaid program so they can draw down that match.
Right.
We're one of the few provider sectors still paying a provider tax, us in nursing homes. Physicians don't pay it anymore. Other provider groups don't pay the provider tax. So we're getting hit at all ends. And we're doing our fair share in the community. We'll continue to do that because that's our mission. We feel that's our commitment and our obligation to our local communities.
Do you believe Joe Nauchin's with his president and CEO of the West Virginia Hospital Association, represents 66 member hospitals and health systems. Are there, and I would think this would be more rural, are there rural hospitals or hospitals in West Virginia that today are below the line, are in danger of shutting down, are in critical mass, much more so than they were before ACA?
I think the situation's gotten worse financially for some hospitals. We have some that are on the bubble that are taking it month to month. I mean, when you have to make payroll, our costs, Hoppy, over 55 to 60% of our costs are people costs.
Sure.
We have other costs that we don't control, like insurance, like utilities, like cost of supplies, drugs. All of those costs. We're not a part where we can just cut back on things. People like to get paid, and we have to have services. We have to have utilities. We have to have insurance.
But Joe, I know that. But
some of those hospitals are squeezing.
You know this too is that I guarantee you more than half of the people listening to this now, and I think you're making very good points. But I listen to that and say, well, my mom just got out of the hospital. And I got the bill. You should see the bill. My God, the bill's $350,000.
Yeah, because the bill is at charges. We're required by the federal government to have an established set of charges. Nobody's paying charges anymore. We bill retail, collect wholesale when we collect it. Even the uninsured, we can only bill them at the amount that we would get paid by the average commercial payer for that service. So if there's a $5,000 charge for an appendectomy, and if the payment by a large payer is $1,500, $1,800, that's all that we can bill the uninsured or the self-pay patient. But we're required, until Congress changes it, we're required to have this crazy system where we bill retail for the services, but we don't get paid that. And it's embarrassing with the charges.
Yeah, Joe Nauchin, President and CEO of the West Virginia Hospital Association. It's a complicated and also intriguing story about the real impact of ACA on the primary delivery system here in West Virginia. Joe, it's good to speak with you. Thank you for coming on. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Have a safe one. We'll talk to you at the Capitol.
Thanks, Arthur.
All right, take care. There's a lot of revealing information in there. We'll be back.
A charity that's close to hearts and close to home. Burlington United Methodist Family Services has been changing lives by preventing harm and providing hope and healing to hurting West Virginia children and families for over 100 years. When you make a charitable contribution to Burlington, you're not only reducing your own tax burden, but helping provide crucial services across our state. Learn more about Burlington and see how you can help today at bumfs.org. Burlington United Methodist Family Services.
You know who taught me to use a hands-free device while driving? My mom. She scared me to death all through school with that phone up to her ear, driving us back and forth. Now that I'm on the road solo, I tell my mom, I'm worried about you. Go hands-free with the phone when you're driving. I do. It's important to set a good example for parents, so when she rides with me, I turn it off, put it down, and just drive.
The West Virginia Department of Transportation, saving one life at a time.
In this season of giving, consider donating your used vehicle to Good News Mountaineer Garage. You'll get the best tax deduction possible and the satisfaction of knowing your donation changed the life of someone in need. Good News Mountaineer Garage repairs donated vehicles and provides them to qualified West Virginia families, giving them access to employment, safe, affordable housing, health care, and other vital necessities, and putting them on the road to economic independence. Call 1-866-GIVE-CAR today for Good News Mountaineer Garage. 866-GIVE-CAR.
You're listening to Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him going on to fascinate millions with his talent? 1 in 260,000. The odds of this born racer having 157 career top 10 finishes in NASCAR? 1 in 125 billion. But every driver seeks the pinnacle of their achievements. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year? 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I'm NASCAR driver Jamie, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. Coming up next hour, I think a very revealing interview, I think, is coming on the EPA. And also, we're going to talk about how West Virginia may well lose a congressional seat here in a couple of years. This is Talkline on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia. Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Talkline on the Metro News Radio Network in and around the great state of West Virginia. Hoppy Kercheval with you. Joe Nelson is our producer. Cody Barcroft is handling our video stream today. Coming up later in the program, we're going to get down and dirty with how the EPA came up with the Clean Power Plan, which is turning out to be very detrimental, along with market conditions. I always put that in there, to the coal industry in this country, particularly in West Virginia. But first up this hour, Census Bureau's out with the 2015 numbers, not good for West Virginia because they show West Virginia lost 0.25% of its residents within the last year. That's actually the highest drop in the nation. We have about 1.85 million people. You say, okay, what's the big deal? Because, and I hear this argument too, if there are fewer people coming in, they're not taking the jobs away. It doesn't work that way, trust me. You need population growth. You need people moving here. But that's a little bit of a different story. One of the serious problems with all this is that the 2020 census is just around the corner. And when that comes, other states will have grown in population. West Virginia will be stagnant or falling. And then they start to look at the congressional districts. I mean, there's only 435. So they got to apportion it, and they start moving things around. Election Data Services is a political consulting firm in Manassas, Virginia, and they look at these census figures very carefully and figure out what's going to happen with the congressional districts. I can tell you right now it's not good for West Virginia. Kimball Brace is with us, and he is Election Data Services. He joins us on Metro News Talkline. Kimball, good morning. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Glad you joined us.
Good morning there, Happy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So what's going to happen? First, well, let's take the macro view. What are your projections about how many states are going to get congressmen and how many states are going to lose them?
Well, right now, according to the new data that we just came out with, it looks like there'll be 6 states that will be gaining seats, and 9 states will be losing seats when we look towards 2020.
And these are because of the population shifts and where the growth is occurring. Go ahead and do you have them in front of you? Go ahead and name those states if you have them in front of you.
Sure. The 6 states that are gaining would be Arizona, Colorado, Florida will actually be gaining 2 seats, North Carolina just 1, Oregon 1, but Texas would be gaining 3 seats.
Wow.
And so you see South and West
right.
Is where some of the growth is taking place. And then the 9 states that are losing, these are all single loss states, would be Alabama, Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and of course West Virginia. You see, that's all up in the upper Midwest and Northeast.
Yeah, except for Alabama. Why is Alabama? That's curious to me. But
that is a strange one. It's one that poked its head up last year in our study for the first time. It is strange. They're just not gaining as much as what other states are gaining.
Yeah, Kimball Brace is with us with Election Data Services. So let's zero in on West Virginia. And Kimball, these are projections, but you guys are pretty good at it. Is it a slam dunk that West Virginia is going to lose a seat?
It's not necessarily a slam dunk. What we show in our study is that, in fact, West Virginia just lost its seat. It would have received seat number 446. Of course, there's only 435 seats to be given out.
Mm-hmm.
So it lost it by about 10 positions, but it only lost it by about 61,000 people. So it is still relatively close to not having lost the seat.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you that
what's going to take place in the next 6 years.
Kimball Brace, unfortunately, unless we start busting people in, I can tell you this: we're not going to gain 60,000 people over the next 4 years. Not going to happen.
Well, that may be true. You just got to open up a new coal mine or something out there.
Well, that's not happening. In fact, we're going the other way. So I think I don't want to be the negative guy, but based on that, it would appear likely that West Virginia is going to lose that congressional seat in 2020.
It sure looks that way, yes.
Okay. What is the significance of that beyond just losing? I mean, how does that manifest itself, in your opinion?
Well, it ultimately, the impact is that you have one less voice pushing your causes in Congress. Right now you have 3 congressional districts and, of course, 2 U.S. senators. So you've got 5 voices up on the Hill. Well, now you'd only have 4 voices up on the Hill. Now, you get somebody that's charismatic and pushing West Virginia issues. Certainly, that can help, but you just have one less voice on that side. And then the other impact, if you take a look at the way your districts are drawn right now, you've got your northern district and your southern district, and then that long skinny thing coming through the whole middle of the state.
Right.
And so the issue will become, is that the one that's consumed as the first district goes south and the third district goes north?
Yeah, there's going to be, if we lose that seat, there's going to be a lot of discussion as to how you redraw the line. I mean, the first thought is that you just sort of bring the line of the first and second down and bring the line from the second and third up, and you end up with 2 districts. But you could also split the state another way. I mean, I guess you could. There's a lot of ways to carve up the pie, and that's going to be probably a political decision. How do they do that? How do they do that?
It usually is, very much so.
I mean, how is that done?
It's actually done in most states by an act of the state legislature. It is the one time the entire decade where congressmen come hat in hand back to the state legislature asking for their district, because it's the responsibility of the state legislature to draw it.
And then you really, and we went into redistricting a few years ago, and it really gets interesting because it gets down to what counties are where. Is that county a Democratic county or a Republican county? And if there's 3 sitting congressmen, who gets nixed out? The last time we went through that, because we used to have 4 not that long ago, Congressman Harley Staggers Jr. got nixed out of the deal.
Right. And it depends. That's when congressmen take a long look at, do I want to run again? Should I just resign, retire? Has my run ended? What the heck? But it varies with each individual member. And then some of them, they don't want to leave, and so they want to fight to preserve what they could.
Mm-hmm. Kimball Brace is with us. He's with Election Data Services, and they evaluate these census numbers that are just out. The 2015 numbers just came out, and it looks like West Virginia may well lose a congressional seat in 2020. After how quickly does that happen? So they take after the 2020 census is done.
Right. The 2020 census is taken on April 1st of 2020. The results come out a year later by April 1st of 2021, and then the state draws its districts in time for the 2022 election.
Okay, so it would actually be 2020. If we lose one, it would be actually 2022 before you go from 3 to 2.
That's correct.
Yeah. And also, we got a geographic issue here, Kimball. I'm not sure. Well, you're from Manassas, so you know West Virginia. You're in the valley there.
Oh, yeah.
But we have this mountainous terrain. We're kind of all over the place. We got panhandles. So you could have a district that's very hard to serve. It'd take you all day to get from one place to another.
That is true. That's true in your instance, but it's also true out in the Midwest and the West. Some of those districts are very, very large. You look at somebody like New Mexico or even some of those in Arizona. They have lots of territory.
Mm-hmm. Kimball, will this, in your opinion, have an impact too on the ground floor stuff that congressmen do? Because we talk a lot here, we're always talking about whether the Congress is going to approve the budget or whether they're going to bomb somebody, what they're going to do. But a lot of what Congress does, as you know, is the day-to-day answering calls. Somebody's got a problem with their Social Security, with their VA benefits, with their disability, with God knows what. And will there be fewer of those services as a result?
Well, that's always possible. The question becomes, a member in that first district, he's got X number more counties and people in those counties to service, and maybe it becomes more difficult that your individual question gets answered. That's why you just got to keep up and keep poking the holes as much as you can to get your needs met by your congressional delegation.
Because we're not going to see. You're not having a corresponding decline in population, even though you're losing a seat, because it's about population growth and how that impacts other areas. So you got the same population, essentially, just one fewer congressman.
That's correct, and that's part of the problem that came about because we are no longer increasing the number of congressional seats. We stopped it at 435 after the 1940 census. Previously, we were always just increasing as we added more states, as we added more people. We increased the number of members. But in 1940, they said enough, and we got enough seats up here. So we just held the lid now, and therefore everybody has to represent more people.
Yeah. What about your state? What about the Commonwealth, the mothership over there? What's going to happen in Virginia 2020?
Virginia, we were looking last year at it potentially gaining a seat, but this year they don't hold up enough to gain that seat, so they'll just stay even.
Pennsylvania and Ohio?
Pennsylvania and Ohio will each be losing a seat. So, again, those areas around you will be impacted.
Yeah. So, again, generally speaking, is that northeast portion, even New York.
Yep, even New York and Michigan, Minnesota, the Northeast and the upper Midwest, basically. And that's a trend that continues from the 1950s as people were leaving the snow belt and heading south. Once we got air conditioning into Florida, the population grew like weeds down there.
I got to check this, and older listeners might remember. I certainly remember when West Virginia had 4, and I think at one time, maybe in the lifetime of some of our listeners, we might have had as many as 6. But I have to check on that. I certainly remember 4.
Yeah, it was a good bit. We actually have a table up on our website, electiondataservices.com, that has that history going all the way back to 1870.
Oh, I'll check it out.
1780.
Well, I'll check that out. Kimball Brace, Election Data Services in Manassas, Virginia, consulting firm, looks at these figures very carefully. Kimball, insightful stuff. I appreciate you coming on. Hope you have a wonderful holiday, sir.
Thank you, sir, by all means. If you look at it, you'll see that you had 6 seats from 1930 to 1950.
Really? 6 seats from 1930 to 1950.
Yep.
Gotcha. And that was also, I'm sure they were all Democrats during that time too, but that's another story. Hey, Kimball, great talking to you. Thanks for the insights.
All right, no problem. Take care.
Bye-bye. Likely that West Virginia will lose a congressional seat because of, it's not because you're losing that much population. It's because the country's growing. We're not growing. The Northeast isn't growing for the most part, although it seems to get more crowded on I-95 all the time. But you got the Sun Belt states that are growing, Texas, Arizona, Colorado, out west are growing. Losing seats, and we'll probably lose a seat in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio. Virginia's going to hold steady. New York is losing a state. Florida is gaining. So you see the trend. So West Virginia, if this holds true, between 1950 and 2022, between 1950 and 2022, 72 years, will go from 6 representatives, 6 seats to 2. 6 seats to 2. And I'm going to guess that the decline in population at that time has been about 300,000 or 400,000, maybe 500,000. We probably peaked, and I'm guessing here, but we probably peaked in population at about 2.5 million. 2.4 maybe, I'm guessing here. And right now we're at 1.85 and just not growing. And you really do need growth. You need people moving in. That's good for the workforce. I know some of you think, wow, then you're taking other people's out. No, you want people to move in with their families. You want them to have skills, gain employment, pay taxes, all those kinds of things. It's not happening. We'll be back.
It is the season of light, the time of faith, of family, and love. From the incredible display in Chief Logan State Park to the renowned Festival of Lights in Wheeling, the spirit of the holiday season is being illuminated for all to enjoy. From east to west and in communities all across West Virginia, the lights of the season fill the spirit with joy and wonder. As you enjoy this very special season and the love of your family and friends, we ask that you remember the hard-working men and women who work in our nation's coal mines, keeping the lights burning. And we also ask that you also also remember our nation's armed forces. Together, they provide the energy and freedom we enjoy. Their efforts keep us safe and keep us warm. This season, as you enjoy these enchanting displays in the company of loved ones, please know that the coal industry is truly proud to always keep the lights on. We wish you a safe, thankful, and blessed holiday. Merry Christmas from the Friends of Coal.
Look around your holiday table this year and think, how many faces are missing because they've had to leave home to find good jobs in more technology-driven, economically diverse states? The High Technology Foundation is working to keep young, educated West Virginians here at home by attracting high-tech companies to our state. The High Technology Foundation is helping build stronger West Virginia families by building a stronger West Virginia, because there's no place like home and family for the holidays. Learn more at wvhtf.org.
This is Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
This is a guide.
Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest, because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank all across the great state of West Virginia. I'm Hoppy Kercheval. It seems as though that the military activity is becoming even more escalated in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. We had 6 American soldiers killed in Afghanistan near Kabul the other day. We have a pitched battle for Ramadi. We have special forces who've kind of been going in and out in Syria to aid in the fight there, are back in on the ground in Syria. Alistair Wanklin is following the story for Fox News. Alistair, good morning. You want to start with Ramadi? I mean, this was a city that the ISIS rebels took back in May, and John Kerry said at the time, well, this is a bump in the road. We'll get that back, and have not got it back yet, and there's a pitched battle going on.
Yeah, and they've held it for quite a long time, and also it's a Sunni loyalist area, so that's that people used to be allied with Saddam Hussein, and if they feel they're not going to get any better deal by giving up and returning to the sort of authority of Baghdad, then maybe they'll hold on there. It's tricky. In Afghanistan, U.S. commanders say they fear that the Islamic State group is trying to gain a foothold along the east of Afghanistan. That's where Taliban and Al-Qaeda loyalists still live. We've been battling those two groups, but people who have the same kind of sympathies maybe are buying into this narrative by the Islamic State group that there can be a sort of a pan-Muslim world state. Clearly the Islamic State is nowhere near setting up a state of its own, but that's what they say they're doing, and you're seeing grumblings from Libya in the west to Afghanistan in the east. Even in Indonesia, here in Asia, there was some plots broken up this week by police in Indonesia saying there were plans to attack Christmas celebrations in Indonesia. If that's Islamic State, then clearly the narrative is being listened to by a lot of people like this.
Well, and they may be listening because of religious reasons or for pragmatic reasons, or they may be listening because whoever has the guns and is controlling the streets is the one you listen to.
Right, exactly. There could be that coercion force. It's pretty scary for the governments involved. Now, there are plenty of Muslim countries that have not really been affected yet by this kind of movement. Look at Jordan, Malaysia, Indonesia. But if there was to be Islamic State cells sprouting up and attacks, it would pose a serious threat to those governments, and I'm sure they are keen to try to prevent it from happening to begin with. Afghanistan, of course, has very little governance. There is a government, but it doesn't really have control outside Kabul.
Right.
And so it's up to the very few brave American soldiers who are still on the ground there.
Alistair Wanklin's with us, Fox News Radio, following the just the extreme difficulty in these battles that are going on in the Middle East and in Ramadi. And it's hard to fight a conventional fight because I was watching a report this morning, Alistair, where as forces try to retake Ramadi, well, ISIS blends in with the population or occupies civilian locations, and a lot of the civilians have left. But then you can't do a wholesale attack. It's like a house-by-house deal.
Right. But you say that they blend in. They do blend in, Hoppy. But when they don't blend in is when the local residents have had enough of them. And if ISIS has been too brutal, too heavy-handed, and too insensitive to what the local people want, ultimately they will rise up. And that's what happened back in 2008, when the awakening, so-called awakening in Iraq, took place, and U.S. troops were able to clear villages, clear towns, and then leave them in the hands of the local militias to keep the peace. And that worked for a long time. It was a policy that really worked, and it cost very little in terms of financial support, and it just left the Iraqis in charge of their village. And the hope is perhaps that this, again, can be applied in areas that ISIS currently controls in Iraq.
Alistair Wanklin, Fox News Radio, following developments in the Middle East. Alistair, we appreciate you coming on today. Thank you very much, and hope you have a pleasant holiday.
Thank you, Hoppy. Same to you.
All right, man. Thanks. When we come back, it is. It's mind-numbing, and it's important to remember that we have U.S. forces, American men and women, very, very much in harm's way this Christmas season. Certainly reminded of that just the other day with the loss of 6 brave Americans outside of Kabul. When we come back, we'll talk about what kind of Christmas we're going to have in West Virginia. Weather-wise, everybody's been all over this for a couple days. It's not going to be a white Christmas. It's going to be a warm, wet Christmas. We'll get into that. And also coming up later in the next half hour, Chris Horner, attorney for the Energy and Environment Legal Institute. He's done amazing research and freedom of information requests to uncover the relationships that have existed between this EPA and environmental groups to craft the Clean Air Plan, the carbon rules that are so, frankly, they're arbitrary and also detrimental to the coal industry in West Virginia, in Wyoming, and across this country. So all that and more coming up. We'll have a live show for you tomorrow, special Christmas Eve show. We'll chat with some of our friends here on Talkline. That's coming up tomorrow. Right after this, Talkline on Metronews, Voice of West Virginia. 11:30. Let's get a news update. Check in with the Metro News Radio Network. Find out what's happening statewide this hour, all across the great state of West Virginia.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Shauna Johnson. 3 teenagers are now charged in connection with a violent robbery earlier this month in Morgantown. Morgantown Police Chief Ed Preston says those teens ages 17, 15, and 13 stand accused of felonies.
The victim in this case received a number of injuries, blunt force trauma to the back of the head. He was stomped and kicked and beaten while he was on the ground, abrasions, lacerations, and he could have died as a result of the assault that took place. So you have the age, they're young, but they made a very grown-up mistake here.
The 3 were originally picked up on other charges. West Virginia's population is declining faster than anywhere else in the U.S.
New population estimates were released Tuesday from the U.S. Census Bureau. Those numbers show a population decline from July 2014 to July 2015 of more than 4,600 residents. It was the largest percentage drop in the nation at 0.25%. West Virginia was one of 7 states to lose population during the past year.
That's Carrie Hudasek reporting. Practice time is on the schedule today in Florida for Marshall University. The Herd is prepping for Saturday's St. Petersburg Bowl against UConn. For the first time since 1977, there will be a full moon on Christmas Day, called a full cold moon because of this week's start of winter. It'll be another 19 years before we have a full moon on Christmas again. You're listening to Metro News for 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Here is a wintertime safe driving message from the West Virginia Department of Transportation. Where there's ice and snow, take it slow. Driving on snow-covered roadways require more attention and less speed. Also, watch for black ice on bridges, ramps, and in shady spots. Especially be cautious around snowplows. The best thing you can do to drive safely this winter is to slow down. Where there's ice and snow, take it slow. This winter safety driving message from the West Virginia Department of Transportation, Division of Highways, and the Safety Management Task Force, saving one life at a time.
I'm Chris Lawrence, and I love it when you send me pics of the game and fish you've bagged. I show them off at the outdoors page of WVMetronews.com in the Ram Trucks Trophy Room. But now we've stepped it up a notch. Each month from now through January, we'll have a random drawing of those who send us a picture for really cool prizes. See how to enter and submit your trophy pics at the outdoors page of WVMetronews.com. Make it a tasteful photo, and if it's a trophy to you, it's a trophy to us. The Ram Trophy Room at the outdoors page of WVMetronews.com.
The spirit of the season at a restaurant in West Virginia's capital city where more than 50 bikes are being given to kids for Christmas. Melissa Stewart's 6-year-old son Laquan was among the kids submitting videos to them two brothers and a grill barbecue.
He just started learning to ride his bike, and a week after that someone stole his bike, so we got him a new one. It was too little, and a week after he submitted the video, his pedal fell off of him and broke.
Owner Adrian Wright says he started the bike giveaway to thank his community for supporting his business. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Shauna Johnson.
Talkline on Metro News, welcome back. Okay, what kind of Christmas is it going to be weather-wise? Jonathan Wolf, meteorologist, National Weather Service in Charleston. Jonathan, good morning. Merry Christmas. What's our forecast for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day?
Good morning. Well, you're looking at a warm and wet Christmas and Christmas Eve. We got a lot of storms moving into the area. Basically, the first one will impact the areas tonight into tomorrow morning, and that one you might actually see a little bit of more summertime weather with some thunderstorms and such. And then we get a little bit of break Thursday afternoon and evening, and then another system moves through on Friday and Saturday, kind of making for a miserable weekend.
Jeez, thanks a lot. Is it going to be? Will there be any flooding?
That's a concern of ours, I would say. It's hard to say right now. It really depends on where this stationary front sets up, but right now it's a possibility.
Yeah, okay, but there's no warnings or watches out yet.
No, there's nothing out yet.
Okay, and temperatures, record temperatures tomorrow or Friday?
Pretty close to it.
Yeah, which would be what?
I don't know that number.
All right, 60s, mid-60s, 70s, something like that?
Oh, in the lower 70s.
Wow.
Lower to mid-70s.
Was it snowing anywhere?
In the western part of the U.S., but anywhere east of the Mississippi River, it's warm and hot, and there's really no snow to be seen.
Gotcha. So, and possibility of flooding, wet, and soggy for the next couple of days.
Yep, and even some thunderstorms that will roll through tonight.
Got it. All right, Jonathan Wolf, meteorologist, National Weather Service. Thank you, sir. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right. Some people are going to be bummed out about that. The Lodge at North Bend State Park is hosting a Christmas Day buffet this year. Enjoy traditional entrees like turkey and stuffing, as well as new favorites such as pecan-crusted fish and a prime rib carving station. After your meal, explore the 72-mile North Bend Rail Trail by bike or by foot. For more Christmas Day adventures, call 800-225-5982 and speak to an adventure advisor. 800-225-5982 to find out about more Christmas Day adventures. You know, you're looking for something to do on Christmas Day. It's after about what time? 10 o'clock. All done anyway, right? So, and also, if you don't want to cook that big meal, go to North Bend, enjoy their Christmas Day buffet, take advantage of that. Should be very, very nice. Here in West Virginia, there are two great jackpot games you can play from the West Virginia Lottery. Powerball has drawings on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Mega Millions has drawings on Tuesdays and Fridays. The Powerball jackpot is $227 million. Mega Millions jackpot is $104 million. Please check with lottery.com for updated information on the West Virginia Lottery. When we come back, I think this is a gigantic story. And I know some of you are going to roll your eyes because it involves the EPA, but just follow me. Just follow me on this, okay? Just follow me. We'll be back. Stay with us.
It's here, the year-end Blockbuster sales event at your Central West Virginia Jeep Giant. Northside Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram trucks in Summersville. Inventory is huge, and so are the savings. Come on in now for this deal, a 2016 Jeep Cherokee Latitude 4x4 cold weather group. Yep, you're going to need it. Satellite radio, retail price $29,230, Blockbuster price $24,999. You save over $4,200. It's only the beginning. See us in person or online at northsidewv.com.
Hi, it's Tony Caridi. If you're in a business or organization that needs visual help, then let's get together and talk. For more than a decade now, those of us at Pikewood Creative have embraced the opportunity to help people just like you tell their story visually. Whether it's a video, commercial, animation, or motion graphics piece, we produce content that make others take notice. We help people increase their business and organizations better tell their story. If you need help, then contact us at pikewoodcreative.com.
You feel a strong desire to help hurting children and families in West Virginia, but you think,
what could I do?
Burlington United Methodist Family Services has a place for everyone. Folks to help with office duties in their facilities across the state. Professional and business people to help teach youth about their professions. Volunteers for their annual pumpkin and apple harvest festivals. And of course, donations of all kinds. What can you do? Search your heart and go to bumfs.org today. bumfs.org.
You're listening to Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Women now make up 37% of the workforce.
5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline on Metro News all across West Virginia. Hoppy Kercheval with you. We have talked a lot about what the EPA is doing, and specifically with the Clean Power Plan, which is the EPA's plan to reduce carbon emissions from coal-fired power plants. It has been hugely detrimental to the coal industry in West Virginia and the coal industry as a whole because the way these rules were drawn up. It is impossible to build a coal-fired power plant. They say, well, you could do it with clean coal technology, but that doesn't work. So it really is an overt effort through the regulatory process by the EPA to shut down the coal industry, and all done in the name of climate change. and preventing climate change. But people are taking a closer look at this now, and nobody more so than an organization called the Energy and Environment Legal Institute. They've done a ton of research on how the EPA came up with these rules. It's been covered by the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and other major media organizations. And one of the guys who's done almost all of this legwork for the Institute is Chris Horner, an attorney for the Energy and Environmental Legal Institute. He joins us on Metronews Talkline. Chris, good morning. How are you?
Thank you. I'll be very well.
I read through, again, more of the material last night. I've been following this for a couple of years. And to summarize, it seems to me that what you have found out, and others have reported, including the New York Times and Wall Street Journal, is that the Environmental Protection Agency under this administration has collaborated with environmental lobbyists and many times sort of off the record with these environmental lobbyists, probably doing it illegally, to come up with these rules with the specific purposes of putting coal out of business. Fair or unfair?
That's accurate, and I would take it a step further.
Please.
It makes the rules themselves unlawful. What we found is what you probably should have expected. The administration staffed up its EPA with lawyers from the environmentalist pressure groups, who then continued to communicate with their former colleagues on private email accounts. We even have a Darwin Award nominee in which a senior EPA official asks the central player in this scandal, the former Associate Administrator for Policy, Michael Gu, if he has a private email account, she wants to make some introductions. And he says, yeah, I have one. Should I create another one? And she said, not necessary for these peeps, but maybe for other, but probably for others. In other words, as we have found, you may have heard I found a false identity email account, Richard Windsor, which was Lisa Jackson, EPA administrator. Yeah, this was a promiscuous practice by the administration. They moved a lot of government offline very deliberately. That's unlawful, of course. You're not allowed to do that. And if you do it because you're stuck on an ice floe somewhere and you only have access to your private account, you're supposed to copy your official account.
But they were developing policy off the government grid, right?
In fact, yesterday we filed with EPA 2 petitions to ask them to reconsider these rules, which is to stop them and start over lawfully. And we attached about 30 plus pages of these emails, including one that says, attached is a memo I didn't want to send in publicly. And the memo explains how they can force every existing coal plant to shut down. This was the argument. It wasn't saying, here's how we think you can do it. It was, here's what you should say. And, in fact, EPA proceeded to go even further. So we know that the basis of a rule has to be in the docket. And this was not, in fact, very deliberately. These people all are lawyers. They all know the rules. They all moved over to Yahoo for a reason. They didn't want it in the docket. So the rules are unlawful by virtue of this unlawful behavior.
The courts will realize that, won't they, and throw this out?
I suggest they will. That's part of the litigation now, whose window also closed yesterday for filings, but on these EPA rules. But here's the issue. This EPA knows there can be, they can win by losing. They can impose an unlawful rule, wait for the Supreme Court to rule on it in 2.5, 3 years, and they will have accomplished their objective in the 2.5, 3 years.
Need an injunction. Need a preliminary injunction.
We have asked for that. We asked for it on a Thursday night, and on Tuesday morning we received an absolute gold mine of the emails I've described to you. We had a few. And so we did point out to the court, and hopefully they'll hear our motion. We actually sought to support other people's. Several of us are seeking an injunction, and we've said, hey, Your Honors, we have some things you need to look at because it increases the likelihood of success, which also increases the likelihood that these rules should be stopped before they go into effect.
Chris Horner is with us, attorney for the Energy and Environment Legal Institute, and he's been doing tremendous work to reveal how these rules were crafted. So I like to say kind of off the grid. I want to talk about an individual which is really at the center. His name is Michael Gu. You mentioned him earlier, and he used to work for the Natural Resources Defense Council Environmental Group. Then he went to work at EPA. Why is he a principal in this scandal?
He was elevated. He was the Associate Administrator for Policy, and then he was tasked with drafting the initial options for these rules. And in that capacity, using his Yahoo account very deliberately, he'd send something from Yahoo to Sierra Club, and then he'd say, oh, wait, ignore that one, here's the better one. Again, showing it wasn't a mistake, he went back to Yahoo. The other guys would use his Yahoo saying, I don't want to send this in public. He was the guy tasked with writing this, and he and they chose to do it offline. So he was there because of the position he was in. in guiding this. And even one of the emails, Hoppy, that we received right after we sought the injunction showed these activists who the emails show actually drafted the original proposal. They were discussing a readout he gave them of his meeting with the administrator. In other words, he was bringing them to the table. They weren't allowed to be there,
right.
So he would leave the meeting with the administrator and give them a readout of the meeting for their input and influence, top to bottom unlawful. You should know that these rules that are killing in industry and communities were thoroughly illegal, and the EPA doesn't care.
So as the Wall Street Journal said, the emails show that the EPA essentially took dictation from green lobbies in a possible violation of the law.
And this proves it. Unless they were, you remember the famous Clinton aide who testified to the Senate that, he was lying to his diary, but he was telling them the truth now? Unless these people were all lying to each other all throughout, but now they're telling the truth, this was just a game we were playing to see if Horner would catch us. Yeah, that's pretty obvious in their own words, unless they were lying to themselves. Which time are you lying, now or to yourselves?
Right. The argument that the EPA has made about this consistently is, the public argument. So this is about climate change, and what we're trying to do is prevent people from getting asthma. We're trying to stop the climate. This is all for the greater good. When in fact, you've seen emails and you've seen correspondence from people from the environmental sector who were working with EPA on this, that the intent was simply to bankrupt coal and to make renewables more profitable.
Correct. The president, in fact, we have reason to believe he was telling the truth when he promised to bankrupt the industry, when he promised, I think it was 4 speeches, including at the UN, 2 State of the Unions, Rose Garden, MIT. He promised that this was needed to finally make a failed industry for 125 years, renewables, profitable, something we walked away from when we were able to. And then look what happened afterward, reducing infant mortality, drudgery disease, increasing lifespans, and so on. He wanted to finally make these losers profitable. Well, we found emails as early as a month into the administration in which they said the polling is not good, climate is at the bottom, it's at the top of our list, it's at the bottom of the public's list, and so here's how we need to phrase it. It needs to be about your neighbor struggling to breathe. So we know that as of in February 2009, they said the polling's not good, we need to make it about asthma. So later, the president, as you know, recently said his daughter has asthma, not because he would smoke in the house when she was a baby, but because of global warming. That's very cynical. It's more so when you see the emails we've obtained to Richard Windsor and discussing PowerPoint presentations to David Axelrod at the White House. We need to make it about asthma. We need to put the American Lung Association out front because the other green groups have soiled their nest in terms of their reputation for reasons as we've already discussed. The asthma claim is a canard. It is poll-driven as early as February 2009. It's about bankrupting a politically deselected industry and making an industry that happens to support a political party very well profitable.
Chris Horner is with us, attorney for the Energy and Environment Legal Institute. Chris, I know there are some people listening now who go, okay, this is Hoppy going down this road again, and Horner sounds like he's, he might be out there a little bit, and what are you guys up to? But the New York Times is on this. Wall Street Journal is on this. The media are on this. They're not on it hard, but they're on it now, right?
Regardless, we could whisper to each other. We can go helium voice. This is documentary evidence. It's public records that they sought to hide from us, that we obtained through years of litigation that they did not want us to have. They even say in the emails attached as a memo I didn't want to send in public, explaining how to do this. It shows unlawful behavior. It shows the rules are unlawful. Ad hominem won't work here. It's their records, their correspondence between themselves explaining, and in an unlawful way, how to do this. And the emails show why they would move them offline. It just took several years, and now we know why.
EPA says, wait a minute, we went out, we got 4 million comments on this thing. You can't take a couple of emails, you're taking this thing out of context. That's what the EPA says.
Well, Michael Gu was the guy tasked with this. He didn't, they could get a lot of postcards mailed in from the Sierra Club, that also was done. That's how you get that number. Michael Gu and EPA weren't working with those people. Postcard campaigns cannot substitute for Yahoo accounts with your former colleagues to draft the options memo.
Mm-hmm. And that's really the key. As I was reading more about this last night, that I got angry. I had to put it down because I thought this is the administration, the EPA are saying one thing. In fact, EPA leaders are out there saying this is not going to be. They're still going to be able to have the coal industry, and then they're all laughing behind this because they said that's not possible with these rules. But that there was this willful and apparently illegal correspondence going on to draft the very rules with the intent of killing off the coal industry. I mean, it's not really even disputable that that's what the intent was.
Clearly, among themselves, and again, on Yahoo accounts, because they didn't want this to be public, because we might end up speaking about it. It might end up filed before the D.C. Court of Appeals, as it was this past month, and before EPA in a petition yesterday. That was the objective, and when Gina McCarthy went out and promised the industry, you will have the same market share in 2030 that you have now, as I think you're alluding to, there was an email sharing the big lie between the Sierra Club's lobbyist and two at EPA, calling it pants on fire. It was a lie of that variety. They were saying what they felt they had to say publicly because, as you recall, the president's candor to the San Francisco Chronicle editorial board vowing to bankrupt an industry that has been politically deselected, which is the reason. None of these rules will change the climate. No one disputes the temperature after these rules will be whatever it would have been before them. You're just leaving a poor world to deal with what it always has to deal with, always unpredictable, often severe weather. It's not about climate, it's about something. It's about what the president initially promised, to bankrupt an industry they don't like. And then he said 4 times at least in major speeches to finally make an industry he does like profitable. We are arguing actually in court as well, that's not a proper use of the state. That to say we don't like you anymore, you're politically useless. We're going to use the state of the bankrupt, the power of the state, the police power to bankrupt you, and we're going to finally make these guys profitable. That's actually, we have a split in the federal circuits, oddly, but that's not actually a legitimate use of government, and we recently had the Fifth Circuit Federal Court of Appeals acknowledge this.
But you're right. I mean, you made a great point earlier. Unfortunately for West Virginia and the rest of the country, is that utilities they're already saying, well, it doesn't matter whether it's legal or moral, they're just going to make the switch, and coal companies can't get loans, and coal companies are going out of business. So it starts, once the Titanic has started to turn, it's really hard to reverse that.
Right. The point is to, even if they lose in court, and it appears they will now, to avoid injunction because they can achieve their objectives, they believe, in the 2.5 years it would take to ultimately lose, probably before the Supremes. Because they're making long-term economic decisions on the basis of this threat. It worked partially in that Mercury Mact case the Supreme Court ended up tossing out. They're hoping it'll work here.
Chris Horner, attorney for Energy and Environment Legal Institutes. Fascinating stuff. You've done groundbreaking work. I appreciate you coming on today. Thank you. Merry Christmas and happy holidays.
Thank you, sir. Merry Christmas.
All right. It is, man. It blows my mind how this took place, how this happened. And there are reams and reams of documents with hard evidence that now is being taken up by the courts, revealing that people at the EPA who were drawing up the carbon rules were essentially taking dictation from the Sierra Club, the National Resources Defense Council, and not in sort of a public setting where people were, but in private email accounts, so it would be offline, so it would be off the record, so you wouldn't know about it. And that is outrageous. And that is one, not the only, but one of the major reasons why the coal industry is struggling today. And that is undeniable. We'll be back.
We're in the spirit of giving at MVB Bank this year, and our gift to you includes awesome CD products at great rates, like our 58-month 2.12 annual percentage yield CD. You can start saving today with a minimum deposit of just $1,000. Hurry in now and avoid the holiday rush. This is a present that keeps on earning year after year. MVB Bank, your financial life made easy. Member FDIC. Visit us at mvbbanking.com.
In this season of giving, consider donating your used vehicle to Good News Mountaineer Garage. You'll get the best tax deduction possible and the satisfaction of knowing your donation changed the life of someone in need. Good News Mountaineer Garage repairs donated vehicles and provides them to qualified West Virginia families, giving them access to employment, safe, affordable housing, health care, and other vital necessities, and putting them on the road to economic independence. Call 1-866-GIVE-CAR today for Good News Mountaineer Garage. 866-GIVE-CAR.
When you drive impaired in West Virginia, you break the law and endanger the lives of others. Law enforcement across the state is committed to keeping impaired drivers off the road. If you drive impaired, be prepared to pay the price. There are consequences. It's simple, West Virginia. Drive sober or get pulled over.
This message is brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program, the West Virginia Division of Motor Vehicles, and the West Virginia Department of Transportation.
This is Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC. Tweets: Mountaineer says Hoppy during Bush Rove. Their lobbyists did the same thing, only pressuring to make coal mining more dangerous. Dusty tweets: Hoppy, during this time of year filled with joy, I'm now seething, thinking of jobs lost, lives uprooted so they can play this sick game. I didn't mean to bring everybody down. Well, I did mean to. Because I've been on this, and I just got the information recently and just was able to set up the interview for today. Now, having said that, we'll try to switch gears tomorrow and have a little bit more casual show. So we'll sit around the fire tomorrow, figuratively speaking, chat with some of the people you've heard throughout the year, have a nice, quiet visit as we head into Christmas. Meantime, keep up with the news of the day at our website at wvmetronews.com. I'm Hoppy Kercheval. This is Talkline on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.